Welcome back to Quantum Alchemists. This is episode 9, completion of season 2. I am your
Right.
host, Mr. Alchemistic, but you can call me B, and I'm joined, as always, by my gracious co-host, Mr. Quantum himself, Alex from Merovingian.
What's up, B? What's up, everybody? How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. We're talking about accountability today. It's a very important topic, very relevant to everything going on in the world, and what part of the practice of being in the spiritual path is having accountability for one's own actions and have some really good quotes and topics and just a whole bunch of crossover from different spiritual traditions talking about accountability. And
Nice.
start
I like it.
first with my good buddy Omran Mikhail Ivanov, who I've quoted quite often here, and somewhat relevant to the topic. This is from a man, master of his destiny. Human beings often get discouraged because they have no idea how to set about correcting their faults. They spend years struggling against a bad habit, but never manage to rid themselves of it. In point of fact, instead of fixing all their attention on a defect, which is the negative result of some destructive act in the past, it would be far better to concentrate on what they can do to build the future. From now on, therefore, say to yourselves, now I am going to make amends and rebuild. And each day, with unshakable faith and tenacity and absolute conviction, work to this end. Take all the elements God has given you, your powers of imagination, thought, and feeling, and concentrate on projecting the most beautiful, entrancing scenes onto the inner screen of your mind, inner mind's eye.
Right.
Picture yourself bathed in music and light. Picture yourself in the sun surrounded by forms of the utmost perfection, imbued with qualities of kindness and generosity, with the capacity to sustain others and to help guide them. Since everything is recorded, you must take care to record only what is purest and best. And once you begin, you'll see yourself that you'll be so captivated by this activity, so busy and inspired, that it'll become an inexhaustible source of joy to you, for you'll be building the temple of God within. I know of no endeavor more worthwhile than this, to build the temple of God in one's innermost being, using all the best materials, utterly disinterested thoughts, feelings, and acts. Most human beings are very far from entertaining this ideal. All they're interested in is to record a little interesting information in their brains without getting down to the real work. The difference between our teaching and that of other schools is that in the schools you learn, whereas here you work. Information can be useful, but it doesn't transform you. Only the work we do ourselves is capable of transforming us, not what we have read or heard. Knowledge can incite us to start working, but we shall never be transformed if we make no move to set certain forces in motion within us. If we fail to act on what we learn, we shall always be the same, however vast our learning. That
Man,
is
that's
man,
beautiful.
master of his destiny.
Yeah.
And I think it's really relevant. The things he's talking about there is we're always focused on outside things, right? Especially, I've been consuming a lot of political information lately. Just how both sides of the coin in the ideological sphere of politics, they're very much like he had described, right? They just get this surface amount of information and outside of themselves, and they want to attack that thing outside of themselves that's opposite of them, right? The thing they perceive as other. And they want to
Right.
demonize that left, or they want to demonize the right and say, oh, they're doing this, or they're all this way. And it's this dehumanization of the with the propaganda we were fed on each side of the coin in politics.
And
There's
have
like,
no mistake. That's actually a military tactic. Those are military tactics meant to divide you.
yeah, it's psychological warfare. This is
Yep.
military tactics of psychological warfare. This is done. This was studied. This is part of game warfare in a lot of ways, right? Is like it's
Yep.
to pit two sides against each other. Um, you know, and you look at the left and the right, and just the people in this country in general. We all want the same things. We're all very similar. We just want to pay our bills and make our lives work. And if
Right.
you have a family, you want to provide for your family. If you don't have a family, you want to have the best possible life that this American dream offers us, right? And this is something I've noticed just from our politics, just from our media, right? Is like the left likes to say, "Oh, Trump is a fascist," right? And then the right is you look at the right wing news and you're like, "Oh, wait, this is kind of like weird fascistic type of kowtowing to Trump on from
Right.
like Fox News." But the left, like, so if we were really in a fascist country, there would be no left wing media. The left wing media and their whole message would be completely
Right.
stomped out. It would
It'd
not
be very
exist.
authoritarian.
It would be, yeah, they would be like, it would not exist. You'd be thrown in jail for the things
Right. Become
the left
illegal.
is saying.
Right.
And the left wing traditionally has run the media, right? So you look at this. So take communist China for example. That is an authoritarian government. They do not allow dissenting voices in the media, right? They do not allow that information to be disseminated to their population because they
Right.
are completely one-sided, controlling the narrative towards the government's ends, right? Toward the government's like interests. So there's like if you were a dissenting media voice in China, you'd be thrown in jail. So that's a
Right.
true authoritarian government. But you look at our government, and it's very interesting. It's a different type of psychological warfare.
Right.
They're trying to divide the population on ideological lines. So we have our right wing media and Fox News that's completely 100% in line with Trump, like will not cast a dissenting voice against him. And then we have the left wing media and MSNBC and CNN and basically every other media, right? All the media is very pretty much ideologically aligned against Trump, besides Fox News, and maybe like Newsmax or whatever. It's the other right wing news, or like a lot of podcasts or like independent media is kind of more leaning towards Trump. But the mainstream media is almost generally like universally aligned against Trump. So what this does is it constructs an environment where you either get subjective news on the left or subjective news on the right. There is no objective news in the middle that's just reporting the news and letting you decide for yourself. It's all with a
Yeah.
ideological, opinionated slant. You look at
Right.
CNN, right? CNN, it's like a panel of people, and maybe there's the Scott Jennings that's the one right wing guy, but it's like he's surrounded by a panel of left wingers, and they're all fucking basically programming you with their opinions. And the same thing with the right, right? It's all opinionated. It's you go back 40 years to the media and they didn't do it this way. They would just report the facts, right? You know, here's
Right.
what happened in Lebanon or something in the
And,
Beirut
yeah.
clash, and they
And
would
you're
just
right.
report.
You're right about it being programming because all it is, it turns into an echo chamber where you just hear other people on the streets repeating the same things that they're saying. Like, bro, do you even know what you're saying? Listen to what
No,
you're saying.
it's all programming just to get you to repeat it, right? It's repetitive. Like you know, they've highlighted this with a lot of the senators in their speech.
This is the
Their
best part of democracy.
coming out. Yeah, exactly. They come out and they're all reading from the same script. There's that 55 senators that were all reading the same script against Trump. Oh, he's this shit, and they even cussed, right, to make it seem like it was organic. But then they're stupid because like literally all this stuff is recorded, so people can find them all reading from the exact same script, and they did, and they there's like 50 something of them of saying the exact same fucking thing. So it's just like it's obvious it's scripted. It's obvious that it's not organic. That they're just repeating the same shit. And like one of the things about Trump's tariffs was like this. Everyone on the left that was commenting on it used the word chaos, 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 chaos. It was like ad nauseum. They're like trying to present this situation where there's so much chaos over the tariffs.
The
So
subconscious mind is focused on the chaos.
yeah, it's that's magic, right? This is
It
we've
is
talked
magic,
about this,
dark
man.
magic,
This
dark
is
magic. Yep.
100% magic. This is spelling. This is spell work. They're doing spell work with the repetitive nature of the language. If you repeat the same things over and over again, that's how they cast a spell. And so this is on the left, and then on the right, you have them saying all the same things as well, like with this guy that got deported, right? And they have their whole troop of group of people that come out and say the exact same thing about that situation. So it's very obvious when you look at it from a bird's eye view, from an objective point of view, where you're not taking sides, and you see how these tactics are being inflicted upon the population, right? The people who watch Fox News are being programmed with one narrative. The people who watch MSNBC and CNN and all the other left wing stuff is being programmed with another narrative. And the motive is psychological warfare. It's game warfare, getting these two
Hunger
sides,
Games. Hunger
yeah,
Games.
getting these two sides to fight each other. So
Yeah.
and what happens when they're trying to distract us from the fact that they're still stealing from us, right? They're stealing our money. This is what's been done to us for generations now. Is like
Right.
they distract us with a bunch of stuff. Back, before the civil rights movement, it was about race. It was like, oh, hate these black people,
Well,
right? And there's
well, that's assuming that there's anything left to steal, because we're pretty much bankrupt at this point.
yeah, I mean, we're $36 trillion in debt, and you see what Elon was trying to find the waste and fraud, and then that he got completely um, just blindsided by the media, just trying to destroy him, destroy his company, and the programming there was very prevalent, about anti-Tesla stuff to the point that leftists are vandalizing each other's Teslas because that's who drives Teslas, right? It's like getting the left is like slowly eating each other, like fucking a couple of Pac-Men fighting each other, and but it's this is but what's stemming from it all is just this surface level um just consuming of information, right? You're just consuming what your echo chamber is telling you. You're not being accountable to search out anything that challenges you so that your own viewpoints are challenged. You're just taking the easy way out. You're consuming this easy made ideological bread, right? Whether you're right wing or you're left wing, you're just eating from your own trough. You're a pig eating from your own trough. You never challenge your own viewpoints. So and then you get you the other side, opposite ideological side from you, has been dehumanized in your own mind so much that you look at them as idiots and they're the problem. And like, I mean, you got people talking on this is just social media, which a lot of it could be bots, but there's a lot of people talking about violence, right? Like civil war. And this has been something that's been kind of foisted upon us ever since Trump came on the scene is this idea of an American civil war. Whereas like, you
Right.
know,
Subliminals, more subliminal.
yeah, it's like this subliminal programming that's this is ultimately what they want, right? The powers that be want to destroy this country. And that's very obvious that then it's been systematically done throughout the last 3 decades. Like our economy has been systematically destroyed with these bad trade agreements, which Trump is trying to undo with the tariffs and new trade deals. Like like the NAFTA from the 90s and mid 90s, and then the stuff that Bill Clinton did with Fannie and Freddie and the mortgage set the stage for the 2008, which we've never really fully recovered from. They used, chewing gum, paper clips, and rubber bands to hold the economy together ever since for the last 17 years, ever since that has happened. So, like, and
We know the system is strained. We know that it can't take anymore. We know that it's already broken. We know that it's literally on its last leg right now.
and
And
yeah, it's
one of
it's
the things I heard, this guy saying the other day was, and something to think about, right? You got Donald Trump in office, right, who has bankrupted I don't know how many companies in the past.
I think it was six. He's had six bankruptcies.
Okay, cool. I think he's working on number seven, right? And that is because that was his role. That's what he was hired to do. That's what the puppet masters needed him to do because it's time to close up shop, right? And so it's time to change the guard. We got to do the exit strategy right now, and who's the best guy to do it? Get Trump to do it. Because yes, we're a country, but we're also the Virginia company. We're a corporation.
We are a corporation, 100%. And, this goes back to, they've been pumping this Trump is a fascist narrative into our brains for 9 years now. And it's like self-fulfilling prophecy. We've talked about this energetics, right? Conscious energetics. They've been programmed. The reason why they've been programming this into your mind is because they're getting ready to pull it. Like, and they're getting us to the left, they're getting the left to program that energy into the conscious hive mind of humanity, right? Is like preparing us for this thing, right? This Trump's moving to be an authoritarian, right? And they're all
He's the
expecting
usher.
it.
He is the usher.
Yeah, and they're all expecting it at this point, right? Because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's just like any kind of predictive programming, like the Terminator, right? Or any of these futuristic dystopian type of stories that have been
Or
pumped into
Orwell.
us, Orwellian stuff that's been pumped
Yeah,
into us to get us to fear the future, to get us to fear what's coming, to get us, oh
right,
no, this is going to come, and then but then like by fearing it and by
right.
programming that into our conscious mind, like we're
You help
actually
create it.
making it happen.
Yeah.
We're it's just like we were talking about with the prophecy stuff, right? Where like there's an active group of people in the Jesuits who are programming, who are actively acting in favor of trying to bring about prophetic events or make it look like prophetic events are happening to
Yep.
program the Christian conscious subconscious mind into believing that we're in the apocalypse, right? Believing that the end times are coming. So they're making it like the COVID vaccine, right? There's this thing in the Christian community during the COVID stuff
Mark
where
of the beast.
the COVID vaccine is the mark of the beast, and this was being pumped into the Christian community where they're like, "Oh, this is the mark of the beast." And so you guys see what we're talking about here? Like there's these narratives that get programmed in mass into groups, and they use that. This is a magic trick. They use this because they understand how powerful our minds are. And if we're there's a huge, large contingent of people fearing a certain outcome and thinking that this certain outcome is going to happen, then all these people are programming this into reality because this
Right,
reality is a program and it responds to
right.
our energy, and we are all programmers, co-programmers of this program with the creator.
We're
That's that
co-creators.
We are co-creators with the creator, and unconsciously a very large amount of people are programming this reality with what they don't want to happen. And this is
Yeah.
why, we've talked about this in the
Yeah,
past, like
exactly.
worry is a prayer to the devil, right? And that this is how it works. This is how magic works. This is how energy works, right? And this is how the people that run the world have brought about their desired outcomes for a long time, is by controlling public perception and controlling the public's psyche and their fear factor of things that they don't want to happen. They program the things we don't want to happen into our minds, and then we subconsciously make them happen. We become the self-fulfilling prophecy. And this is why accountability for our own mind is so important.
Yeah,
You have to be
yeah.
accountable for your thoughts and for the things that you fear, the things that you think, because you may be in groupthink, and a vast majority of you are. You're in a groupthink ideology where you're a Christian thinking that the end of the world's coming, or you're a leftist thinking Trump is going to be a dictator, or you're a right wing person thinking that Trump is the savior, right? Or like it's just this, or like you're a right wing
I'm gonna
person
give
thinking that you're going for a civil war. We're gonna have to bring out our guns and fight the lefties. Like
you.
this is all fucking collective programming that they have pumped into your brain through these fucking outlets like the mainstream media that
Yeah,
program people in mass. And this is why the accountability, man, you got to be accountable for your mind and accountable for the things you believe, accountable for everything that's within your body. And that's why that quote is so important and so prevalent, is like you have all the tools within your body to program the reality you want out of your life. But if you're
right.
giving your energy away to ideologies or to groupthink, hive mind type of bullshit, you are subconsciously programming the reality to bring about the result that you don't want. Um,
Exactly.
so we got to
And
become accountable for our minds.
and
And
not only that, but one of the things that makes it really, really difficult, right? You take all this, and I absolutely love where you're going with all this. And then let's throw in one more factor, an anomaly, right? And the anomaly of ego. Okay, because ego steps in, and then all of a sudden it's now you versus you. Okay, but you're not, a lot of times you're not aware of it because ego doesn't like to account for itself. Because that's ego. That's its job. Its job is to say, I know better.
and it's job to convince you that it is the only thing, right? That there's
Right.
nothing outside of the ego. It's just what I see with my five senses and what I perceive is my reality. And I am this person that is this ego, and there's nothing outside of me. There's no the concept of a oneness is preposterous because I am me and nobody else is me, which is true, but it's also like there's subtle difference or it's a subtle paradox that we are involved in here, right? Like,
It
and
is a black mirror. It is a black mirror. If you want to call it that for any of those of you guys who watch that stuff, total black mirror.
well, it's your belief powers reality, and ego's job is to get your belief to believe that it is in charge and that it is you. That's ego's job, is to program you to accept this programming from the matrix, right? And to get that you focusing on just being this person, like you're just this person, you are Joe Blow, and you are your job and your religion and
Uh-oh.
your political affiliation and your sexual orientation, and this is your identity, right? It's an ego's job is to program you into an identity, to get you to not see, to get you into separation, to not see
Right.
that there's a you're a part of this environment, and this environment is a consciousness that is oneness, right? That's the thing that the ego is here to block you from. That is the veil on your consciousness, is your ego, right? And that's where we're at in humanity right now. In this, we've just detailed this, is that we're at the age of Aquarius. They're switching from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius, the age of belief into the age of knowing, right? And one of the things that the ego is doing is it's its last fucking hurrah for the
Yeah.
ego. It's
Yeah.
the
It is
last.
fighting desperately to say it is desperately fighting for its existence right now, your ego.
Yeah, and that's the shadow. That's the devil, right? Is it's desperately fighting for its survival. And in this age of knowing that we're still in this transitionary phase, right? Like the energies are shifting massively, and a lot of people are starting to, the veil is thinning, right? And then maybe they still have a little bit of that veil, but it's like the veil is thinning, right? This is the apocalypse, the lifting of the veil. We're in this transitional phase from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius, where we're we're transitioning into this
Right.
new way of looking at life, where the
It's
ego
it's
kind of
basically
dissipates.
if you didn't know, now you know. That's where we're going.
Yeah, and knowing is half the battle. So yeah, that's why accountability is so important. Is like, be accountable for yourself, right? Come to this state where you ask yourself, what do I really know? What do I believe? And what do I really know? Right? Belief and knowing. What do you believe? And how, and what can you say? Okay, I know that. And this is goes back to other episodes where I've talked about,
Absolute truths.
yeah, and well, also Socrates, who was one of the most wise people ever, and what he said was, I know that I know nothing, right? It is like this is somebody who, a lot of Western philosophical thought is based on Socrates and Plato, and but this is a guy that had pondered all the deepest of the deep. He jumped into the deep end, right, to
Yeah.
ponder the most intense questions, and he came up from the deep end and he said, "Well, I know nothing." Right, and this is
Yeah.
the humility we must have, the accountability to be humble, like
Yeah.
you don't know shit. I don't care how many degrees you have, how many years you went to
Right.
school. You got a master's. Oh, great.
Which is
You
actually
know,
counterintuitive to your ego because ego doesn't like humility.
well, and the ego likes to hold that piece of paper up and be like, well, I'm an expert, right? And this is there's recent podcasts for Joe Rogan where it was Dave Smith and Douglas Murray, right? Did you see this? There's been a lot
No,
of talk about this. There's been a lot of
I
talk
watched
about
it.
this episode
I
because
watched it.
Murray is a English. I want to say he's a journalist, right? And he studied the Middle Eastern conflict in Palestine and Israel, and he basically took Joe Rogan to task and Dave Smith for not having experts on the podcast, for having people like Dave Smith, who's a comedian, but he's very well read and he's very outspoken about the injustices caused in Gaza by Israel against the Palestinians. And Douglas Murray is very much a establishment journalist coming in on the side of Israel, right? So there's a big conflict in that podcast that was very interesting to watch, and it's like it was basically the mainstream versus the counter narrative, right? Of like that they were going to war and of words and talking about, Dave Smith's coming on the side of the Palestinians and saying, look, like I get that Hamas is bad, right? And Douglas Murray's was justifying what Israel did to Gaza, saying, oh, there's Hamas missiles in a lot of these buildings, right? And then if you look at Gaza, right, it's complete fucking ruin. Like the entire Gaza Strip is in ruins. And
Decimated.
Dave Smith was coming out and saying, well, you can't tell me that there's fucking missiles in every one of these buildings. They literally decimated the entire strip, and all these kids, children, and babies and women are dying in the rubble, right? And it's like Dave Smith was coming out and saying like this is injustice, right? Like I don't care what they did on October 7th, like you can't justify destroying the entire Gaza Strip over a few missiles that Hamas might have, right? It's just this. It's trying to bring Israel to task because Israel's gotten away with war crimes for decades now against the Palestinians who have a right to exist, right? And but this is like the accountability, right? It's like the mainstream wants you to side with the Israelis, especially if you're on the right wing, right? And you're a Christian. Oh, well, we got to let Israel do whatever it wants because they're God's people, right? It's just this misunderstanding of like the people that run Israel, and that's a deep rabbit hole in itself. But like this is about being accountable for understanding world politics, right? Which we don't do that here in this country. We don't
Mm-hmm.
look into things. We get the
No,
surface
no.
level information from our media sources, and then
Echo
we make
chambers.
up our minds based on what the media told us to think and what
Yeah.
the history books told us to think or what our religious books told us to think,
Right.
and we don't look at the human side, right? Like Dave Smith had a really good point about like, look, these are human beings, man. I don't care if they're Muslim or they're atheists or they're, like these are humans, and it's like we've lost this in these ideological conflicts is like
The problem
the
is that they classify them as less than human.
yeah,
That
it's like the things that we expect the Palestinians to endure, we would never endure if it was our group of people, if it was Christians being having this done to them, or
forget about it.
it's really disgusting. And people like Douglas Murray are coming out on the side of the Israelis on the power structure, saying, "Oh yeah, they're justified because this is their homeland." But it's like, well, 60, 70 years ago, that was the Palestinian homeland. You just took it from them, right? These people had their whole settlements were uprooted and they were like kicked out, and then all their land was given away. So like, what would you do if a group of people came into your neighborhood, and the house that you've bought with your money, and they said you don't own this anymore, you're going to go off here over here? It's kind of like we did the Native Americans, right? We threw them off on a reservation. Now here you go, here's a fucking reservation in the middle of the desert, you better be happy with it, and it's nobody would accept that injustice, and we're expecting the Palestinians to do this just because, oh, the Israelis or the Jews got killed in mass in the Holocaust, so we got to give them this land. So sorry, you're shit out of luck. It's just so fucking weird. Like the
Where's the humanity and all that, huh?
there's no like consideration for these people. They're just considered, like you said, they're considered less than, right? Oh, because they're Muslims, and the Jews are oh, the poor Jews, like. And I don't want people to think that I'm coming out against the Jews because I'm absolutely not. But like you look back, this is something about accountability, man. As I've done a lot of research on the Middle Eastern conflict, like a lot. I've read books, watched documentaries on both sides. Like you have to, if you want to form an opinion, you have to look at both sides. You can't just look at, oh, the rah Israel side. Oh, this is why Israel's so great. You have to look at the other side of the coin. And
This also ties back to prophecy, right? It all ties back to prophecy.
this is the Jesuit stuff, man. They've been trying to bring about the biblical prophecy just to trigger the Christians. This is 100% what's been happening. But you look at this conflict, right? You look at back in World War II when they actually World War One, right? I'm going to give you guys a history lesson on the entire Middle East. At the end of World War One, the Balfour Declaration was signed. Back then, England controlled Palestine, right? This is when the Palestinians had their land. England controlled Palestine, right? And the Balfour Declaration signed the rights to the Palestine over to the Rothschilds, who were Jewish, right, with the intention of bringing about an Israeli state. This was the end of World War One, back in 1919, I think, is when this was signed. You can look it up, Balfour Declaration. And then World War II came along, and the Holocaust happened, and so they decided, like, out of World War II, that that was a good time to enact this Jewish state in Palestine, which is what the Balfour Declaration originally established back in 1919 at the end of World War One. So they drug their feet for 25 years, and then finally there was this catalyzing event in the Holocaust that enabled them to justify making this happen, right? Because they knew when the Balfour Declaration was signed that there was going to be a huge stink put up if they tried to put a Jewish state in Israel, in Palestine. So they waited and kicked the can down the road, and then, you know, by great fortuitous, well, not fortuitous, I don't want to like say that, but like, what do you know? Hitler came along, killed a bunch of Jews, and they gave them the excuse to justify putting that there and kicking out all these
Which which
Palestinians out of
which
their land.
which he
To
was financed to do that, by the way,
well,
by the
and then
same
they
people who
it
wanted
had
to get in there.
and the Jews in Europe and all over the world had the sympathy of the world because of what they just endured from the Holocaust. They had the sympathy of the world, and so the world allowed this thing to happen. But the Arabs have been pissed about it ever since. Right? There was a huge injustice, and you would be pissed too if someone came in and said, "All right, you guys are out of here. We're taking all your land. You can go live in this one fucking spot over in Gaza. We're gonna stuff you all in there, and you're just gonna have to deal with it." And that's exactly what fucking happened. And then the 1967 war happened, and even more land was taken by Israel. You guys got to educate yourself. This is the same thing that happened with the Ukraine war, where like you got all these leftist people think, oh yeah, Russia started this war. No, Ukraine started this war in 2014. It just Russia kicked the can down the road and didn't actually act until 2021 when it happened, or whenever that war started, or whenever the invasion happened. Right? You have to be accountable and look into these things. Look into what's actually happened in geopolitics. You can't just take what the media is going to tell you, because they're going to sell you a fucking line of bullshit to get you to believe what they want you to believe. But this is why it's essential to really look into what the fuck happened. What were the events that led to what's happening in Israel right now? And it's a whole lot of stuff. There's a whole lot of stuff that you can go back and look at that will tell you why it is the way it is and why the Palestinians have a fucking legitimate gripe. And Israel's been doing all kinds of crazy war crimes ever since. Every time there's a one missile comes out of Gaza, they go in there and fucking destroy shit. And and the media's been
Right.
apologetic for this for too long. And finally, there's a lot of people that are coming out and saying, "Wait a minute, no, this is not cool anymore. You can't fucking do this." And they've been using this anti-Semitic. Oh, you're an anti-Semite if you criticize Israel. No, there's a great deal of people that do not like what the Israeli government is, that are Jewish. There's a lot of Jewish people that do not like what Israel's government's doing. And to go back to my original point, if you go back to when Israel was created in the 40s, there was a lot of Jewish people that did not want an Israeli country in Palestine. They knew that there was going to be conflict. There was talk about putting them in, I think, Madagascar or something. There was another alternate site, right? That the Jews were talking about that. Oh, well, just give us this land here, right? Where it was like a mostly uninhabited place where it would have been, maybe it was Ethiopia. I don't remember. There was another alternative place that they were looking at besides Palestine. And they knew that the Arabs were going to be pissed. It was going to cause conflict. A lot of Israelis or a lot of Jewish people did not want Israel to exist. But goes back to what you're saying, Alex. The people who are trying to bring about prophecy, the Christians and the Jesuits, we're like, oh yeah, there's a prophecy that Israel's coming back, so we're gonna make this happen, right? And it's just this is the kind of stuff that makes you go, like there's a it's a that's why accountability is so important. It's like you got to educate yourself, and this is what the Elmron Mikhail Ivanov. It's
Right.
work, right? You can go to school and you can go to school by the media and listen and learn things,
Right.
but you have to put these things into practical action and actually work to find the real truth. And that's what accountability is all about: is doing the
Well,
work.
well, I want to add to that because right now, if you look at things that are happening in our country with all the corruption, all the stuff that's been happening, that if we had more accountability, those things couldn't have happened. Things were designed broken, fractured, fragmented because it created no accountability. It created plausible deniability, and it created basically uncertainty. Like, oh well, it could have and it couldn't have. We don't know. But because they're backed by basically the backs, or I should say, the social security numbers of every American citizen that was going to support all their actions, regardless of it was ethical or unethical. It didn't matter. It was no holds barred. You can do whatever the F you wanted to do. And there was no accountability. This is why, all the stuff that's going on now, like, um, one of the things that, that we're looking at is like all these companies now going bankrupt. We got, besides the tariff stuff, which is going to raise prices, right? I believe I said the last time, I believe that the tariffs rising is just um, a way to kind of get the initial rollout of the raising of the goods, the cost of goods and services, as they pull back the income tax, because it's been, they're talking about pulling away income tax, but they can't do that unless they're collecting taxes from something else. So tariffs trigger or catalyze the raising of the goods and services. People start implementing their tariff tax into their purchases or into their sales. So when you buy now over the counter, you're paying this extra tax, and then, we'll come back and we'll talk more about this when we come from this break right here.
Yep. Break
And
time, guys. We'll be back in a minute.
yeah,
There's 88 constellations in the celestial sphere, and there's 88 keys on a grand piano. Then there's a repeating pattern of 12 keys within an octave called the chromatic scale, just like there's 12 constellations along the ecliptic called the zodiac signs. So we can put 12 points on our chromatic key ring. And since there's 12 tones on the color wheel, now we can see our major keys in color. Because when light passes through a medium, it creates 7 distinct wavelengths, which corresponds to the 7 scale degrees in a major scale. And those 7 scale degrees are the reason we have 7 diatonic modes. And of course, there's 7 days per week, named after the 7 celestial bodies that we can see from Earth with the naked eye. Then there's 3 notes within a triad with 4 types of triads, just like there's 3 months within the 4 seasons. And there's 3 trimesters before the baby gets here, just like it's 3 mother letters, 7 double letters, and 12 simple letters. 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, right? 22 times 4 is 88. Music is magic.
cool.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, on this episode about accountability. That was a quick little clip about music that is very interesting, I find. And there's a famous quote by Edgar Casey: "If you learn music, you'll learn most of all there is to know." So yeah, look into that.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a really
Cool.
interesting. You have to check it out when I put it live. But it's a really interesting little video I found about music, the chromatic scale, how music and color and the zodiac, and it all kind of ties together in this nice little ball. It's pretty cool.
Nice. I look forward to seeing that. So we were talking about accountability. We're talking about how, basically, if we had more accountability in government with all these different systems, that we wouldn't have the problems that we have today. And there's also other things. One of the things about accountability, and I try and always say, to people, it's like, I try and be accountable to the things I say I'm gonna do, and maybe the timing's a little bit off sometimes, but the intentions are always, of purest intentions, and always. And so I said I was gonna do something. I was gonna work on launching this website. And I'm finally, I'm not necessarily 100% thrilled with it, but everything is registered now. It's an official company. It's Zen Strategy, XEN Strategy, STRATEGY.com. And this is one of the things that accountability, this is one of the things that I look forward to in the future that's going to help us with providing said accountability. Like if people are looking to invest in infrastructure and not in, tokens or ideas, or like, an actual like legitimate infrastructure, like futuristic infrastructure, check out that website. No one's offering that service. Okay. Like I'm in the community with a bunch of builders. Everyone's building their own thing. There isn't any type of a pool type system that exists where you can go and you could input your dollars and get out this infrastructure token, or the blocks that come with it, right? So we're talking about like Bitcoin stuff. So if you want to learn more about that, I'm going to be posting more about that on my private channel on Quantum Tribe. So I just wanted to bring that up now because this is part of the accountability stuff. Really important to mention, like it took a little bit longer than I wanted to. Understand, folks, I'm not the only person. I don't claim to be the only person that has any types of gifts or talents. Like there's plenty of really talented people that have been challenged, that have been attacked. The fact that I'm able to do anything is really a miracle, because like constantly being attacked by just, it's spiritual warfare out there, guys. Like, the planets, all that stuff energetically. When you have purpose and when you're doing things that are really going to make impact, there's everything in the world that's going to try and hold you back and stop you from moving forward. Like my guy B over here, not long ago, busted up his leg, right? That slowed him down a little bit, right? That's part of the worst. That's part of the forces of the universe working against you to not fulfill your purpose. All right. Some of us get it more than others, right? So there's plenty of talented people out there that it's been like going through mud, and for those of you still hanging on, like keep going. Like we need you. We need you to keep going and not give up now. Like we're really freaking close. Okay. And I say that because
So somebody came in the room. Sorry.
it's okay. So figuring like, all these things, this hardships that we go through, they're intended to get you to be accountable to yourself. And it's more difficult when you have more purpose, obviously, and we all have a lot of purpose. We have to take the purpose on, and we have to claim it. And so the moment we claim our purpose, it becomes really difficult to do it because you're actually doing what you're supposed to. And this matrix doesn't want you to do what you're supposed to, because if you did, you're going to continue to break not just yourself out of it, but by definition, because you're going to be an example of how to do it, you're going to break other people out of it. And it doesn't want you to do that. So it needs to keep you focused on going around in circles, wag the dog type situation, and just keep chasing your own tails and keep fighting each other, because then you'll never get out of the bucket, right? Crabs like to pull each other down. That's what they do. You'll never get out of the bucket if they keep you fighting each other. So this is a reason why in one of the previous episodes, we talked about going into hermit mode and isolation being really good for you. Isolation is a way to eliminate the noise. It's a way to eliminate the distractions. It's a way to eliminate the attacks, right? How can you work and build on things if you're constantly going out in public, going out to the bars, getting drunk, going out to games, watching, like you're doing everything else but what you want to do for you. You're participating in the 3D matrix, and it's distracting you from your goals. It's distracting you from what's really important for you, from the things that you want to build. And so, yeah, time is of the essence, right? Like, and I'm saying this because it's the accountability. You can't be mad at the people that sacrificed going to the bars and the clubs and doing all this other stuff that actually spent the time to get the knowledge. Like you can't be mad at those people, right? Those people did what no one wanted to do when no one wanted to do it, right? They like how is it their fault, right? And so I don't think that being trying to hold people like that account like you should hold people like that accountable to this to now being leaders for how to get out of this mess. Like those are the people you should be turning to help, you know, hey, like I realized maybe I was an asshole before or a bit of a dick or a bitch or whatever you want to call it, but and I'm sorry. This is accountability, right? Apologize for the way you treated the people who who are actually only trying to help you because they've been selfless this whole time, right? There's no ill will, no ill intent. It's like, bro, I was literally just trying to make your life better, but you turned on me. You turned on me because you're insecure about yourself. You're insecure about not doing your own inner shadow work, which it's not my job to do that. I did my own shadow work. You got to do your own. No one's coming to save you. You got to save yourself. I don't know how many times I got to say this or how many different ways I got to say it, but it's all the same shit. It all comes back to the same place. You
Yeah.
know what I
Well,
mean?
also like you're talking about your hermit mode, like once you become accountable to yourself and to your purpose and you figure out that, hey, wait a minute, I do have something that I need to work on. The spirit God is pushing me towards a certain thing. Like this vision in my head, and when you acclaim that purpose and you're accountable for yourself, you're gonna find that the energies that don't align with you, people are gonna fall off. Like you're gonna end up in hermit mode whether you like it or not, because what's required of you is to work in silence. And this is another thing that I've been guilty of too, is like Alex and I have been working on a lot of
Before
really
you go
like
into that,
hmm,
but before you go into that, the the people falling off goes into how the attacks happen because people start taking it personal. They have to attack you. But please continue with what you were saying.
no, like you and I have been working on stuff for almost a year now. Like we had our big we met up at that party almost a year ago now at Cinco de Mayo last year, right? And then we had our episode of Talking to Strangers, and then we decided, hey, we need to do a podcast. And so this whole journey's been almost a year long that we've been on this train, and we've been working on some big stuff, and we have this big vision in our head. And there's a lot of things I've been doing that are really like pretty groundbreaking, and you yourself too. But like I've been guilty of sharing things too early, and one of the things that happens when you share things too early is like you bring in other outside energies into your field, right? And a lot of these outside energies probably don't see you as that person that you see yourself as. You see yourself achieving big things, and maybe you've never achieved anything on that scale before. So the people around you that know you're going to be like, this guy's going to do that. Yeah, right. So you start telling people stuff about the accomplishments that you're on the cusp of, right? You're excited about things. You want to tell people, but those people are like the crabs in the bucket. Like Alex said, man, those people are going to energetically bring you down. Their doubts are going to, because they're in your energy field, right? They're going to be like, fuck this guy. Who's he think he is? Think that he's going to be this big thing. And then they start doubting you and throwing shade on you. And then like all of a sudden their energy starts to creep into your head with the
Which
doubts.
is magic. Which is
And
magic. Which is
goes back,
magic.
yeah, it goes back to what I was talking about in the first part, where you manifest the things you don't want because you start doubting yourself, and then that causes you to kind of throw obstacles in your own path and delays your things from manifesting, right? Like this, so it's you have this is why hermit mode is God will remove people out of it. He's like, hey, that dude doesn't really believe in you, and he's talking shit about you behind your back that you don't know about, and you think
Yeah.
he's your boy, but he's actually throwing all kinds of shade on your name and saying, oh, this guy's fucking delusional.
Right.
And so all of a sudden, like all these people start falling off, and you're like, oh man, I love this person. Oh, I wish they were going to come on the rocket ship with me. But we've talked about this countless times.
Yep.
There's people that can't go through that glass ceiling with you because it takes a certain frequency to break the glass. And if people are going to be the crab in the bucket that's going to pull you down, God's going to be like, get this fucker out of here. And
Nope.
whether you understand it or not in the moment, people that get removed from your life will get removed for a reason. It's because they can't break that frequency with you. They can't go with you on that journey.
Right.
So this is why
They
you have
choose
to,
me to.
yeah. Well, this is why you got to understand that like working in silence is crucial, and to be, like shut the fuck up until it's done.
Right.
Because
Right.
I saw a really good
That's why I
quote
haven't
earlier.
mentioned anything.
I saw a really good quote earlier from this dude, Alex Hermosi, I think is his name.
Oh, I
Motivational
like that.
guy, puts a lot of motivational content out there. I'm not really sure what his business is, but there's a lot of very motivational stuff. But what he said was like,
He's actually
people,
a business builder. He builds businesses.
okay, so you know who he
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
But he's
Smart
got
guy.
really good quotes, really good content on social media. But one of the things he said was people only cheer for you at the beginning and at the end, right? Like they'll cheer for you in the beginning because they're like, oh, look at this guy. He thinks he's gonna do stuff, right? So, oh yeah, come on, you're good. And then they'll cheer for you at the end when the rocket ship appears and all your hard work comes to fruition and they're like, holy shit, this guy's going to the moon. I better fucking try to jump on this rocket ship with him, right? But in the middle, nobody's going to believe anything and they're not going to cheer for you and they're going to talk shit and they're going to be like, this guy don't got what it takes. He's just like me because I don't have what it takes either, right? Subconsciously, that's how it works. It's the crab in the bucket. It's 100% how the masses work. They don't want to see you do good. People will want to see you just do as good as they're doing, but never better, right? So when you start to do better, the people that are just fucking circling the drain are going to want to bring you down into the drain with them, and they're not going to want to see you succeed. So you got to, in that
Right.
middle point, you got to cheer
And
for
it's not
yourself.
and it's not conscious. And it's not conscious. A lot of times it's not conscious that they're doing that. They're
Yeah,
subconsciously doing it because there's either envy or jealousy or some sort of unresolved inner issue that you have to have some sort of unresolved issue. You can't be happy, genuinely happy for somebody when things are going good in their life. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you, bro?
it's just human nature,
Like,
unfortunately. But yeah, it's one of those things. It's like low vibe envy type shit. Like, it's just unresolved, unhealed trauma within themselves. Like they a lot of people are one afraid of success and two afraid of failure, right? So between the fear of success and the fear of failure, they get ping ponged around their entire life, and then they never go
you
anywhere.
know what's funny? You know what's funny with that is that people think that people like you and I, like, we don't have those same fears. We have those same exact fears too, but remember what we said about the fear, the cave that you don't want to go down is the one that you should be going down.
Yeah,
The cave that you fear the most is the one that you should be going down.
the cave you fear to enter. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek. I believe
Exactly.
that's a Joseph Campbell quote. It's very, very prevalent, but it's 100% relevant. Like it's real. Like when you get, it's like that meme where the guy's, he's got the chisel and he's chiseled down through the dirt, right? And he's right on the cusp of breaking through to the diamonds, but he gives up and turns around and he's dejected and he's walking away with his chisel, like, oh man, I didn't get there. But like literally, he's got one more chisel to break through that fucking wall, and he's about to succeed, right? It's just a metaphor. It's a meme for most people, right? And if I follow this guy on Instagram, he's the Abundance Alchemist, right? Is like right before you break through, you're gonna be in this limbo phase, and however long you're in that limbo phase, it depends on a lot of factors, but right before you break through and get your diamonds or get your big success, you're going to go through this limbo phase where the universe challenges you, where God challenges you and tests you to see if you're really on the energetic frequency to accept this big
Yeah.
blessing, right? So you're going to be in this middle phase for a long time. For me and Alex have been experiencing it, right? We know where we're at. We're in this middle testing ground where it's like we're not the person we used to be, but we're not at the place we want to be yet. We're in this middle
Right.
ground. We're in the fucking limbo. And this is where most people give up. is right in this limbo phase. Right as we're about to fucking light the rocket and fucking shoot through the glass ceiling, and all of our greatest dreams come true, and the blessings pour in. Right, it's like the limbo phase is like the hardest part because you've put in so much work that you don't want to turn back, but it feels like you're butting your head up against a wall, and
Yeah.
everything, no matter how much you fucking try to break through that wall, it feels like you're not doing it right. and
Right.
and it's just
And that's why it's
one of those
important to
things, like
keep going.
you
Keep
have to keep
going.
going and work. And that's the point when you're in that limbo phase, and you're gonna know it when you feel it, because it's this liminal phase. This
It
where
feels like
time
it's never ending. It feels like it's
feels
never
like
ending.
time doesn't exist. It's like Groundhog's Day, right? It's like you're in this Groundhog Day phase where you're like every day seems the same, and you're spinning your wheels, and you feel like you're in the dirt, and you keep
Right.
spinning the fucking
Right.
wheels in the mud, and you're not going anywhere. This is the place that you're about to break through. This is where you got to shut the fuck up. Stop telling people shit. Stop. Just put your nose down
Right.
and break,
Right.
and
Do the
just fuck
work. Keep
going.
doing the work. Keep it pushing.
Keep doing the work. Keep having faith. Keep having the
Yeah.
faith. Like this is God testing you. You're in the fucking limbo. Like that's so few people even get to that point, right? It's
Yeah.
like the 85% will have given up before the limbo phase, and then you
Yeah.
get down to like the nitty gritty where you're in the limbo phase, and I'd say 10%, another 10% give up there, and then the only people that break through that glass ceiling are the 5%, right? And the us 5% that are breaking through are the ones that have to try to get through to the 85%, right? We're the
Right.
ones that we're going to have the testimony to tell people, like, okay, this is the journey, this is my story, right? This was my journey and how I broke through. And you just have to keep the faith, and you keep moving, and you keep going, and you see that vision, that vision that's in your head is going to come to pass. And you have to know it, and you have to become that energetic vibrational match to that vision. It's not about it's not about going out and fucking clawing and scraping, and it's about becoming the energetic match
Mhm.
to your manifestations.
Right.
That's
Right.
every fucking person will tell you that.
And the way you do that is hermit mode. You go within, and instead of just doing things to do them, you take the time, you do the research, you analyze, you reanalyze, and then you act. Because what happens is people get stuck in this loop of just doing things to do them because it seems like it's the right thing to do. Sometimes the best course of action is to do nothing. Sometimes it's better to do nothing than to just do things to do them, because you have to understand, when you take action on things, you are actually causing chaos in the universe. You are literally the creator of chaos because you are energetically putting something out every time you put something out. So instead of putting out a bunch of shit every single day that's going to amount to a bunch of different versions of something that you want, you stop, you go within, you analyze, you reanalyze, you think about what actions you need to take. What one action can you take that is the least common denominator in all the actions that you need to take for all the things that you got to do? And then you start there because it's the most impactful action you can take that will impact the most amount of things that you need to do. And so you start taking an impact driven approach to how you're going to approach things in your life, and you start to reprioritize things in an order of operations that makes the least common, the lowest hanging fruit is what I like to call it. It's like, what's the lowest hanging fruit to me achieving the next goal on my long laundry list of things I need to do? And let me tell you something, when you do it this way, even if it takes you, weeks, right? If you're doing it one major step a day, you'll get there faster than if you just did shit every single day just to do things to try and get to that one spot, because it'll take you years to get there. Than if you just took the time to strategize, to map out your thoughts, to map out where you're trying to go, to map out step by step what you want to do, and then act one time. You'll get there. Like I said, even if it seems like it's taking you weeks or even months, you will get there faster than if you just do things to do them without purpose. Trust me, I've done that most of my life, only to realize that this goes back to understanding your purpose. Once I understand my purpose now, Now I'm in a place where I have the luxury of being able to take one step a day, one massive step, which is why I didn't say anything about the Zen strategy stuff. I kept my mouth shut, like B said, work in silence. Now I'm in a place where I could present it. It's a business. It's registered. Like it's the energies are supporting it. Like it's time, right? But it took me weeks to get here, and weeks with a bunch of opposition, with a bunch of energetic opposition from not just the solar system, but opposition in my 3D world, with people coming against me, with relationships falling apart, with business falling apart, with me traveling. I'm gonna try and make my way to Daytona Beach June 6th. I was invited to participate at a libertarian national convention that they're holding in Daytona Beach, Florida, and which they're going to be filming an episode of "Are You Smarter Than a Politician?" And I was invited to, if I can make it there, to participate in that. So I'm really looking forward to that. I participated in a Twitter space not long ago with a few of my grassroots activist buddies, and I was able to unleash some of my plans and some of my ideas to some of the people attached to the current administration in the White House. So I guaranteed that, the stuff that I'm working on is falling on ears that are powerful enough to make a difference if they really want to. Um, I can tell you right now that from what they want to do and what their plans are, like there's one thing for you to say that you want to make a change in a certain industry like academics and learning and education, right? But one of the things that I was telling people on this Twitter space was, you know, right now the least valued people on our planet are academics, they're teachers. They're the ones that get shit on the most. They have the most amount of stress with the least amount of incentive. And, you know, my my I have compassion for these people because I know how important it is to disseminate and pass along knowledge, because obviously we're this whole podcast is about knowledge, so we're obviously very big proponents of educating yourself on stuff. So I'm a very big advocate for education, academics. I'm a very big advocate for increasing wages for teachers, but the current system doesn't allow for it to happen, because there's no incentive for the information to get out. Because again, we go back to the institution of academics, which was created by, again, the Jesuits and the church, who implemented
Rockefeller.
university, and Rockefeller, and the institutions of academics. Like you have the National Science Foundation and all of these literature institutions, and so all these institutions basically control and gatekeep the information from getting outside of their sphere of influence, because they want to make sure that you only get the information that they want you to know up until a certain degree of knowledge, and then from that they don't want you to surpass that, because you're going to escape the matrix, and they need you to continue, you know they need you to continue staying here without knowing this stuff. So the current system doesn't incentivize for there to be a reform in how academics is done or managed, right? So the platform and the system that I'm building is exactly that. It is a different perspective of how to approach academics, how to approach the industry of learning, to where the teacher becomes the most incentivized person in the process of passing along information, where it's the most fair and it's not gate kept. In fact, that you're encouraged to continue to post as much knowledge as you can, and if the knowledge is good and valuable, then and there's value there, then you as a teacher will get more and more students. And if the knowledge is garbage and it sucks and it's really not that good, then eventually your stuff it won't take off, it won't go viral, because it's just no value. So these things are like, they're right around the corner, guys, and a lot of this stuff like I'm talking about right now, just these institutions and these governments dread, and the church dreads they dread the day that this stuff becomes available to you, because that's when the game is up.
Well, I
The
mean,
game is
like
up.
you look at what's going on with the Department of Education, right? It's getting abolished basically, and and the status of American education is pretty much in the toilet comparatively to the other developed countries. We are completely in the shitter when it comes to education, and there's major reforms that are needed. And there's a huge hubbub right now about Trump is getting rid of the Department of Education and turning it back to the states instead of having a national,
which is
federal
great,
funded,
which is a
yeah,
great idea.
federal funded system that has ultimately failed us. Right?
Yep.
It's created this system that is not giving the students their best opportunities to thrive. And a lot of the money, just like any of the other bureaucratic nonsense that's been happening on a large scale in our government, is a lot of the money is being usurped and taken and
Right.
flushed down the toilet into the sinkhole of money laundering that our government has become. Everyone's taking. There's all these hands taking from the Department of Education, and there's no results to show for it. Kind of like the California homeless problem, right? It's like 24 billion has
Yeah.
been put into the LA homeless problem,
Yet there's
and
more
it's
homeless than
gotten
there's ever
worse.
been.
It's
Yeah.
just like there is bloating and corruption within our government that is just insane, and
Accountability.
the
Accountability.
no accountability whatsoever for these funds. And the Department of Education is at is one of the top of the lists of lack of accountability and lack of results. So as we're in this transitional phase out of a federal funded Department of Education, going back to the states, and we're coming down the line here with technology giving us new choices on how to go about educating people. Alex has a very um, excellent platform that he is pitching to the education system. The possibilities here are pretty remarkable for the things that we can revolutionize the way that people learn and incentivize learning through compensation for participation. So, and then that brings accountability up to the forefront where it's like, as long as you're accountable and you do your due diligence in learning, you will not only increase your value of knowledge, you will increase your value in monetarily as well because you will be able to monetize your learning for yourself, where you won't be paying for higher education to a college. You'll be earning money for learning at a higher level. And it's really exciting, like especially with the crypto based platform that you have. It allows the facilitation of this type of learning. And like Alex said, this shit's right around the corner. And Alex is pitching this to people that are in powerful places. And it offers the opportunity to shift and to pivot away from the traditional way of learning, which has been long overdue. Um, and maybe we can get to a system that will incentivize individuals finding what their thing is, right? Like we don't need to have kids going to school and learning all the same shit. We don't need to streamline education from fucking kindergarten to high
Right.
school, right? We can find
Better
specific
education.
talents, right? We can find talented children that are talented in music or talented in art or talented in math or talented in science, and we cater their education for that. And and that's how we overcome this deficit that we have against other countries like India and China, who are taking all the doctor jobs, engineering jobs. Maybe we find engineers when they're 6 years old, and then we can
Right.
cater their whole education towards
Right.
that, right? Specified learning. And instead of learning all this stupid bullshit that they're not going to use, we find the talent at a younger age, and then we have put this child in a system that incentivizes learning, allows them to make money, right? Allows their parents to make money from their education towards their future. And it's just there's so many possibilities that will enhance the ability to find talented kids at a young, because kids are amazing, right? Like we dumb them down and we put them in this system that basically spits out fucking cogs in a machine, right? And we don't find their special talents, and we bog them down with this fucked up like 8 hour like works
we
or
put
a
them we
school
put them in
schedule.
boxes. We put
We
them in
put them in a
boxes.
box, and when we deal with them like we would, we try to prepare them for the machine like existence of a 9 to 5 job, which that part that's going away as well, right? With the in technology coming in, AI, all this, everything's changing, right?
Right.
We're in this transitional phase, not just in consciousness, but in technology and in the way we do business, the way that we create
Conduct
value,
ourselves.
the way that we accumulate value for ourselves. The 9 to 5 work, 5 days, 9 to 5 work week is going away. Like things are changing in a massive way, and we have to change with these changes, right? We have to change the way we educate people. We have to find the talent at a young age. We need to specify their education towards creating these special jobs, right? So we can place these people
Yeah.
that are going to be talented in these fields, and it also incentivizes them to do something they love, right? If they're
Yeah.
talented for it, they're going to love it, right? They're not
Right.
going to go and be like, oh God, I got to learn about this again. And that's
The,
90
the
to
way
95% of all school nowadays. It's just kids
the
like
way
banging their heads against the wall.
the way I described it was it's like the draft of academics. The system that we're talking about will allow for us to identify people highly skilled in specific areas, where now we can actually go to like Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies and see if there's any special projects that they have on the roadmap to work on and what type of skills they would need to achieve said project. And then we would basically go and we would select these people based on their strengths. And you would now have an academic, think of it like an A team, like a
Mm-hmm.
like a and it would all be based on performance, which we would have in real time performance, and we would have uh, accountability and accounting of all of our global human resources. Because that's another thing too, is like having an understanding of where we're oversaturated in certain fields, maybe medicine. Like a lot of fields are going away, right? Like we don't need any more lawyers, we don't need any more doctors, but we do need more nurses, because doctors are being replaced by AI, right? Maybe we need more surgeons, right? But not lawyers, certainly not. Maybe more mediators, but not lawyers. You know, we definitely don't need any more jails. We need more rehabs. We need more love centric forms of healing, and more like scientific modality based healing, for like sound and frequency based healing, light based healing, things like that, where like people need to heal, like this is a
Well,
real
there needs
global
to be an acknowledgement from, like, this is part of getting rid of the old ways, right? Is like understanding that we went awry around the time of Rockefeller, where he streamlined education and he brought in his petroleum-based pharmaceuticals that have overrun our pharmaceutical industry. So, like, all these industries were streamlined by these tycoons of the early 20th century, and it's created this problem that we're in the middle of right now. And part of shifting with technology is shifting away from these systems that are outdated and obsolete, and getting back to understanding and finding these things like the Rife method, right? Like Royal Rife with the frequency based healing of cancer. We need to put money into researching these things, right? Like really finding cures for that, and understanding that sound does heal, right? There's a lot of studies done that have been kind of swept under the rug because it doesn't benefit big pharma, right? Like this is part of getting rid of the old guard, is like understanding that we've been lied to, and it's been money based about how our health and our education and all these things have been streamlined into basically low level, um, like it hasn't been to our benefit, right? It's been to benefit the people at the top of the
right.
pyramid, right? And we need to kind of go away from this and figure out a
Right.
way to make the base of the pyramid more healthy and be able to thrive long term.
Right.
And there's a lot of technologies and a lot of things coming up in the future that as we're shifting in consciousness and we're shifting these are things that are gonna be highlighted. So
Just remember,
we're
guys, that the only way we can get there is decentralization, and this is an inevitability which our government and governments around the world already know is coming. This is the reason why we're getting all these like last stand approaches, right? Which is they know that their influence and power is going away. They have to reduce the size of government. There's been a great deal of money gone into private studies, researching this very topic about government's influence in the future with decentralization. And decentralization cancels out the need for big government. Like you just don't need it. So we know that government has to trim the fat. And I believe we're running out of time, right?
we've got a minute and a half left.
All right, cool. So I do want to wrap it up here, though. I think that we got the point across. I think this is a very powerful message for all of you today. I love you guys, and I'll let B say a closing message before we lose time. But I love you guys, and yeah, check the description below and make sure you like and subscribe too.
Like, share, subscribe. All the relevant stuff's going to be in the description as far as Alex's website, and you can find my t-shirts at alchemisticapparel.com. Link is down in the description. But yeah, accountability, guys. It's very important at this point in time that we're accountable for what we believe. We're accountable for what we do, our own lives. Like, stop looking outside of yourself. Look within and ask yourself, what do I really know? And start from there. And then once you start becoming accountable for what you believe, and you start looking into this information that we're giving you guys week by week, or it's been a couple of weeks, but like we're putting out this information pretty frequently, right? And I know there's not a lot of you, but I know we have some of you. Like, let's start this snowball rolling in the right direction, snowball of accountability. And once we get on this train, you're not gonna be able to stop it. So I think that's a good place to stop it for there. We'll be back soon, and we love you, and be accountable. Later.
Discipline! You tell me to use social for business, but Gary, when I open it, I spend 9 hours scrolling. Brain rot! I have brain rot! You're not fucking disciplined, you motherfuckers! Can discipline come back? We put fucking aura on a pedestal. We love aura. Aura's great, right? Aura. But we can't fucking focus on discipline. You know why you fuckers are losing? You don't have discipline. You know why at 38 and a half my back hurt? I was chubby as fuck and fucking not feeling great? Because I wasn't disciplined with my food and exercise. You know what I did? I got disciplined. It got better. You always have bad relationships? Maybe it's your fault. Maybe you're peaking fucking scumbucket dudes because you're insecure. Maybe. Is anybody ready for us to get out of this last 15 years of like surface level bullshit? You think an ice plunge is gonna fix your life? You think jumping in a pool with ice is gonna fix you? You think you're gonna meditate for 15 minutes when you wake up and it's all gonna be good? We need to fucking get in our fucking feelings of our truth. Enough of this bullshit. Stop blaming everybody. You want to get fucking happy? Get to discipline. Stop fucking blaming. Enough of pointing fingers. It's mom's fault. It's dad's fault. It's your boss's fault. It's your girl's fault. It's your ex-brother-in-law's fault. It's your fucking ex-boyfriend's fault. As if the Republic of China, the communist engine, is sitting around being like, Donnie in Idaho, let's fuck him up. Enough of this shit, you fucking blamers. You motherfucking blamers. Stop blaming. Fucking crybabies. And you're sitting literally right before this show looking at your Wells Fargo and seeing $9.06 in it and blaming inflation. $19 blueberries are not fucking you up. Your mindset's fucking you up. Who you spend your time with is fucking you up. How you see life is fucking you up. Fuck, man.